One of the great things to do with the bounty of your vegetable garden is make a vegetable lasagna. In this dish, we're going to replace the noodle layers that you would have in a traditional lasagna with all kinds of vegetables from your garden. We're going to do a squash layer, an eggplant layer, and a layer with these beautiful colored peppers. I just think they're so gorgeous. And of course, if you have green peppers, you can use those too. We're going to roast these a really easy, fast way. You'll notice I just took the top off, cut it in half, took out the middle, and now I'm going to quarter it. Throw it in here with these others. I think we'll have this beautiful orange one. And after we do that, we don't have to do much else to them except we're going to sprinkle them with some kosher salt and a little olive oil. I think about 1 or 2 tablespoons of olive oil is plenty. I'm just going to drizzle it over here. Even if you don't generally like to use a lot of salt, you need a little salt on the peppers as they're roasting because it pulls out the natural sweetness of them, and it'll just draw that right out, and it'll give us a wonderful caramelized flavor when we're done. I'm going to stick foil over the top of this and try to keep it down tightly because we're basically going to be steaming these in their own juices as they cook. And stick them in the oven, 350 medium oven for 35 to 45 minutes, depending on how your oven works. And in the middle, give them a little jiggle so they don't get stuck to the bottom of the pan. And while these peppers are roasting, we're going to make some fresh tomato sauce to go on our lasagna with all those great homegrown tomatoes you've got in the garden. We're going to make a wonderful, simple, easy to make tomato sauce that'll still taste like those homegrown tomatoes that it's made out of. And we're going to use it in our vegetable lasagna in just a little bit. I'm sauteing 1 small onion in my usual combination of a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil. I love the taste of the butter, but then we can cut down on our cholesterol with the olive oil. I'm going to add some garlic, but I'm not going to add the usual raw garlic. I'm going to add roasted garlic. I put a whole head of garlic, slice it in the middle, put it upside down on a shallow baking dish, drizzle it with a little olive oil, kosher salt, and let it cook for 25 to 45 minutes, depending on your oven, in a fairly slow oven. 325 is best. And if they're soft, they're going to be done. Now, I'm going to just stick this stuff right in. Just kind of smoosh it out of the head. And I'm going to use a whole half a head and then a few extra garlic cloves that got away from me. We're in the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons to 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. We don't want this to be a real heavy, thick sauce like you make in the winter, but we need to have something to hold the sauce together. So I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. I'm going to add a tablespoon of sugar because there's something magic that happens when you add a little sugar to tomato-based products. About a teaspoon of kosher salt. Now, stir this up. I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of basil that I just got out of the garden, and I happen to have some purple basil as well as the usual green, so I'm going to do a variegated julienne of basil in there. And I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of red wine. And of course, the alcohol will cook out of the wine by the time we're ready to use it in our vegetable lasagna, but it'll give it a lot of complexity of flavor. Stir this around, keep it on the low heat, and it's only going to take us about 20 minutes of simmering for us to have a great tomato sauce, and then we're going to build our vegetable lasagna. I'm finishing up my ricotta mixture for our wonderful vegetable lasagna. So far, I have mozzarella, ricotta, a couple of eggs to bind the whole thing together. I love putting walnuts in this mixture because it gives it a little bit of a crunch. I'm going to put in about 1/2 cup of chopped parsley and one of those small cans of sliced olives and about 1/2 cup of Parmesan. I've got a cup here and I'm going to save the rest for the top. There we go. This is like your usual standard ricotta mixture for lasagna with just a few extra things, such as the olives and the walnuts, which really give it a wonderful flavor and go right along with our vegetarian theme. Now, I have eggplant, zucchini, and yellow squash that I had Court grill for me outside. As you can see, we did it on a kind of a medium hot grill, just so that they were soft, because they tend to continue to cook after you bring them off the grill. So just get some score marks on them. When they start softening up, you can take them off. And I have only put a little kosher salt on them. Now, the first thing I'm going to put down on the bottom is the eggplant, because it gives it a nice crust. The great thing about this is we don't have to use that 11 by 9 baking dish, because we're not obligated by those lasagna noodles to do so. So we can use a round one, whatever your favorite baking container is, use that. And I like these round Spanish cazuelas. I'm going to try to use about half of my ricotta mixture. And knowing that I was going to use a fairly large container, I used 3 pounds of ricotta, and I used 2 fat-free and 1 low-fat. I'm going to spread this ricotta mixture over the eggplant. So we've kind of covered the whole bottom layer. Now, remember the first thing we did for this dish? We roasted these beautiful peppers. The next layer is going to be some of these roasted peppers, and I'm just going to kind of lay them out. Now I'm going to take some of our wonderful fresh tomato sauce, make a layer of it, and now we're going to use the second half of our ricotta. Now we're going to do 2 layers, 1 zucchini and the yellow squash right on top of that. Another layer of the fresh tomato. And I've got about a half a cup of Parmesan and a cup of mozzarella to top it with. I used a skim milk mozzarella. I'm going to put it in the oven at about 375 for about 45 minutes. I'm so happy with the way it turned out. Looks beautiful, and I know it's going to taste good. It's a wonderful way for you to use the bounty of your vegetable garden. And you can use those 10-pound zucchinis in here and no one will know. Oop, I got my eggplant dripping there. That's one great thing about it. This is a drippy, gooey, wonderful lasagna full of the bounty and goodness from out in your garden.
Hi, I'm Margaret Smith. I'm a new Garden Club member, and my tip is the best way ever to trap those nasty slugs that eat your flowers. Just take the used 4 and 6 plastic packs that you have left over from spring planting and tuck them under a leaf of a plant where you see there's been slug damage. The slugs crawl in, nestle down in the bottom, and in the morning throw it away, slugs and all.